Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. My name is Michael Wade. I'm a professor here in strategy and digital. But in fact, my title has changed today. So now I am the autonomous professor in strategy and digital. And the change in title is a reflection of the fact that earlier today, IMD opened its newest research center. That's the Autonomous Global Center for Digital and AI Transformation. And I say new because we've been doing work, as many of you know, in digital and digital transformation areas for a long time, for many years. But now we're accelerating that work, and we're really shifting in a direction towards artificial intelligence. And what we want is for IMD to be a clearinghouse of the world's best research and thought leadership in this area of digital and AI. And that's going to be reflected in this new research center. Of course, it's not only research, we also do a lot of programs. If you notice in the agenda of the OWP program this week, there's a lot of content choices around AI. We have a large group of faculty who are comfortable and knowledgeable in this area. So the sponsor of the new center is a company called Autonomous. Now, Autonomous may not be a household name to many of you, but they're making huge waves in the tech world in the areas of digital and AI. And Autonomous is led by a legendary figure in the tech world. So I'll be introducing in a minute Joseph Bradley. He's going to come up and share some of his thoughts on how the physical and the digital worlds are merging and what that means for you as individuals, and what it means for organizations, and what it means for society. And then when he's finished talking, I'm going to come back up. We're going to sit in those chairs right over there, and we're going to have a conversation, a Q&A session around this topic. And what we hope is that the Q&A is not just between the two of us, and that you are invited to participate as well through questions or comments that you may have. And you see on the stage right behind me here is a QR code, and I should probably duck so you can actually see it. And that links to a Slido so that you can, during the presentation or afterwards, you can post questions that you may have for Joseph. Well, also, in case you're old school, we're going to have mic runners running around so you can ask questions in that way as well. So let me give you the lowdown on Joseph Bradley. Joseph has a degree in economics from the University of California at Berkeley. He spent his whole career in the tech world, so he's worked for companies like Pacific Bell, AT&T, C3 Communications, and he spent more than 15 years at Cisco. And while he was at Cisco, he was running a number of their technology practices, including IoT, blockchain, and he was one of the founders of their IOE, that's Internet of Everything practice, which he led there for a while. He's also an author, so I can highly recommend his book. It's called Questioneering, the New Model for Innovative Leaders in the Digital Age. And for the past 3 years, he's been the CEO of Autonomous, a company that is leading the digital charge for the largest construction and development project on the planet. So he'll explain a little bit more about what that looks like. And through all of that, he's been a great friend of IMD. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joseph Bradley.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I appreciate it a lot. All right, we have a great topic to talk to you today about. Super excited to get a chance to see all of you. We're going to talk about the convergence of the digital and the physical worlds. But to get started, just so I get a sense of who we have in the audience, how many of you are very familiar or have seen the movie The Matrix? Okay, this is great. All right, so it's just us, so you can be real honest. Don't I'm going to ask you a real basic question, so relax, don't get nervous. I got 2 pills. I got the blue pill. The blue pill says, woo, let these kids go on, let them play video games. Let them be out there. Let them play video games as much as they want. I love this virtual reality stuff. And I got the red pill. The red pill says, physical world, man. Take those games away. What's wrong with you? They need to be outside. Okay, who wants to take the blue pill? Ooh. Oh, no. Okay. All right. Get some gamers. Yeah. Blue pill. Okay, blue pill. All right. Fortniters. Yeah, see you guys. Blue pill. All right. Who wants the red pill? Okay. Blue pill folks, you're already here. Red pill folks, you're going to get a ping in about 5 seconds. Let you know this isn't real right now. Okay. That's great. I wanted to get a sense of that because we're going to talk about these things. And to get us started, I want to introduce you to my favorite friend, my nephew. His name is Malcolm. And I went over to Malcolm's house. He lives in Vegas. And I said, Malcolm, what are you doing? He can't say Joseph. He couldn't say Joseph when he was young, so he calls me Uncle Jojo. He says, Uncle Jojo, I'm getting ready to play football, going outside. I'm like, okay, cool. He's going to play football. And we happen to have a football tournament. So I go, great. I'm going to get dressed and get ready to go play football. Pretty simple. Next day, I come down the stairs. I say, Malcolm, what are you doing? He says, I'm going to play football. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's right. We had a tournament. So I get all dressed to go outside. And what does Malcolm do? He goes right upstairs. He didn't say qualifiers. He didn't add any adjectives, adverbs. In both cases, he just said, I'm going to go play football. You see, this is the world of singularity. In his mind, doesn't see a choice. Now, is this really happening today? Let me tell you. The average city in the U.S. has about 24, or global city, look at the top cities around the world, they have about 24 million people. So they're the top cities around the world, 24 million people. Fortnite, Roblox, 500 million plus. They're doing it today. $2 billion in revenue. Most cities barely breaking even or close to bankrupt. $2 billion a day. This is happening. It's not something that's totally futuristic. So today we're going to talk about and understand what does it actually mean when I say this concept of singularity, what is singular reality, what does that mean to you? We're going to talk about what are some of the risks, and ultimately have a great conversation where we hope to engage you. Okay, let's talk about defining the singular reality. So if you remember during COVID, what was the favorite phrase for us technology folks showing the world how valuable our technology was when it came to digitization? Remember that phrase we used every morning? You're on mute, right? You're on mute. Remember that? You're on mute. Say that 100 times a day. You're on mute. That's all right. You're on mute. You're on mute. Right? That was what we did, right? That's how we lived our lives, right? And so we said, yeah. The pendulum, we go, hey, everybody's going digital. We're all rushing and go digital. That's where it is, right? We're never going back in. We're staying in the digital world. Then COVID got over, and then what happened? We said, whoa. We have what? All of these buildings left. No. We got to get back in, man. We got to go back in. So we said, no, it's not about living in the digital world. It's about living in the physical world. And what's the answer? It's just plain living. That's the thing. That's what you got to grasp. It's not living in the physical world. It's not living in the digital world. You're just living. It's not going to Amazon only. It ain't going into your favorite store only. You're just buying stuff, right? There's no line between the two. Okay. And there's tons of technology behind it. Yes, AI is the kind of main brains that's driving it, which is great. And then you have to have some way of executing. So you have IoT and you have robotics, execution engine, and then these devices have to have some way to communicate with each other, right? To transact with each other, and that's where blockchain is so critically important. So what's a real live example of this? Is it only gaming? Is that the only example of the merging of singular, this notion of bringing together the physical and virtual worlds? How many of you love to vacation? Okay, all right. Oh, we got a lot of travelers. Let me tell you what your experience is like if you love to vacation. You get up, you say, "Ooh, we got to pack." And if you happen to be a husband, more than likely, you're the one that gets to lug the luggage. You get to pick it all up. You get to lug that luggage out of your house, down the freeway, into the cab or into your Uber. Then you get to go to the ride. You get out of Uber. You grab the luggage out of Uber. Oh, how great. Then you get to drag it up to the lady at the counter. She tells you to go ahead and put it on the machine. Not just your luggage. You put your wife's on. Everything's great. And the kids. You're doing great. Oh, guess what? You get off the plane. Then what do you get to do? Woo-hoo. You get to grab that luggage again. And you grab it again, and you grab it again, and you stick it in the taxi cab. You ride to the hotel. Great. Then some guy tells you, "Would you like me to take your luggage, sir?" No. Yes, take it. Oh, great. Then you got kids. They take your luggage, and what do? You get to the room, and what are you waiting on? The luggage. Kids screaming, you're waiting on the luggage. And then you get the luggage, then what do you got to do? Unpack it. What a wonderful experience. That's what you do, right? That's what we love every day. But what if there was something different? What if you could blend the physical and the virtual worlds together? What we're doing for NEOM, which is Saudi Arabia's world's largest project, building a new cognitive city. What if we could actually know where you're going? Oh, we actually know that. What if we knew what airline you're flying on? Oh, we actually know that. What if we knew what hotel you're staying in? Oh, we actually know that. What if we knew the room you were staying in? Oh, we actually know that. Okay, so before you go, we send you a digital image of your room. And based on your itinerary, we give you a recommended set of clothes and attire. You then can choose to follow our recommendation based on a number of kids and a family you have in terms of where that clothes should be put up in the room, because we know the layout. You say, "Yes, wonderful, I'll accept it." The next time you see your luggage, and when you leave it at your house out front, we pick it up. Next time you see it, when you get to the hotel room, it's already there. How cool is that? Oh, by the way, then if you have someone in your family who likes to do a little shopping, and they always shop too much, and now you got to figure out how to buy another piece of luggage to put it back on the plane to go through it all over again, you ain't got to worry about that, right? Guess why? Because, well, when you get to your home, your luggage will be delivered for you. That's the experience you can have when you create these digital and the physical worlds come together. That's one example of this experience that can be made live for you. Okay, so when you think about this world of singular reality, this converged physical and digital worlds, what does it mean if you are a CEO or you're an enterprise executive and you're sitting there? What are the recommendations that I'm going to tell you? What do we want to talk about? Number one, I'm going to tell you about investing in data assets. I'm going to tell you what that means, how important that is for you. Number two, we're going to talk about employing a cognitive learning loop, right? We're going to talk about a notion called failing fast, how that used to happen. We're also going to talk about understanding the happiness paradigm, why that is so critical. Changing a new definition for privacy. Yes, we got to get around that. Yes, it's a new definition that's required. And then finally, we're going to talk about probably the most disruptive thing that we're going to mention, which is multimodal productivity, fancy word. Okay, let's talk about investing in data assets. How many of you would say you are approaching real-time running of your organization? You're using real-time data to run your organization. How many of you say you're getting there? Okay, how many people are not close? Okay, all right. So most of you guys are feeling you're not quite at real time. That's your goal, huh? That's your goal, real time information. That's what the goal is, huh? My daughter was a teenager. She was 16 years old. It's still hard to talk to, but she became an adult now, but she was a teenager at the time. And those of you who have teenagers will understand the joy of that once they become teenagers. And she told me very lividly, Dad, I've been on this planet 16 years. I know how to drive. I said, really? We bought her an old PT Cruiser. And she, being a scholar that she is, she's getting her PhD now at NYU, but being a scholar that she was, she read that manual. And that manual told her, you change that oil every 4,000 miles. But Dad was trying to explain to her, that's fine when the car is brand new, but not when it's got 200,000 miles on it. That you need to change the oil more often. You need to check it. But she said no, because she'd been on this planet 16 years. She understands. And so she gets in the car, and she's driving it, and what happens in real time? Real-time information. The little light in the car came on, you know, a little oil light, ding, real time. What happened also in real-time information? She pulled over the side of the road because she had a little problem. Call it blown engine. All in real time. Is that our goal? Is that our goal? I'm going to tell you right now, we talk about AI, real-time information is too late, folks. Real time is too late. You need to move to being predictive and proactive. And if you think about it from an enterprise perspective, most enterprises today still only use about 5% of the information they collect, same with cities. But a cognitive one, a predictive, a proactive organization understands they want to use 90% of that information. Now, one, that means what? That means you're collecting information that you know what to do with it. That's number one, right? And number two, you're actually using that information. So when you think about the new city or new enterprise economics, it's all about understanding that you need to create a set of digital assets. 90% of a business assets today are intangible. You know that to be true inherently, but it's kind of hard to put your head around. Is there any Airbnb employees here? Okay, are there any hotel employees here? Okay, good, we can talk about both. Great. Great. So, Airbnb is worth a heck of a lot more than all those hotel companies. You got to combine them together. You know it to be true. It's the value of Amazon. You know it to be true. It's the value of Google, value of Facebook. You know it to be true. Yet most enterprises today do not have a strategy to acquire, build, or partner with data assets. Just like you would a strategy to make acquisitions for companies, I'm telling you, you need to understand what partners, what data sets do you need to have a relationship with to be able to use and deploy. Just like you would have an M&A strategy, you need one around investing in data assets. And here's the trick. It's not just because you just think you need it. It doesn't work that way. It's a little word that starts with a T. Anybody know what it is? No something equals no data equals no value. No trust. Trust. That means you better be able to explain what you're going to use it for. Trust is essentially critically important. No trust, no data, no value. So not just about having a strategy to acquire these data assets, but you got to be very, very clear on what you're going to do to use them, right? Okay. And when you think about real-time applications that are real-world applications that are used for these, several, I'll just talk about a few. Zhong'an had an opportunity to visit one of the most advanced cities in the world. I was the first, I think, non-Chinese to be able to visit the city. They have this great tool around weather prediction. The AI actually watches the puddles that are happening in the road as they're coming down. And it predicts if it continues to rain X amount of time for this many years, will they have a flooding problem? And it prioritizes the repair of these roads based on that without ever talking to a human. It then dispatches out a crew to fix the puddles. It watches the puddles. It watches the crews work and closes it out when it views they have done the proper repairs. Elderly assistance, another one is great. Over 70 years old, they watch the water intake in the house. AI watches it, if it sees that your water intake is down and assumes that you're over 70, there could be something wrong, automatically dispatches a social worker to your house to make sure you're okay. No human intervention, right? Streamlining travel we talked about, and we'll talk more about digitizing physical assets. Travis Scott. Anybody know what Travis Scott is? Oh boy. Okay, Travis Scott, yeah, great musician. He decided to have a concert. But guess what? He had his concert in Fortnite. Put on a big concert. You know how many people that can attend a concert in Fortnite? A heck of a lot more you can put in any kind of stadium. That's what he did, right? That's what he attended. So this stuff is real. It's really happening now. Okay, let's talk about the second thing you need to do. Employing a cognitive learning loop. How many of you, especially when AI, it's an old phrase, but it's coming back now. How many of you have heard about failing fast? Okay, all right. This is a notion. This is really, really important. Terry was in, yeah. Terry's my buddy at Cisco. Terry, you remember this conversation. So remember, Terry, we could go in and we can see John Chambers, CEO of Cisco, used to be. We can go in, me and Terry, we can go in and John and say, John! He said, yes, Joseph and Terry. I'm going to say, woo! Let's high five, man. We lost $1 billion, but don't worry, we lost it quickly. We lost it in a quarter only. Let's celebrate, man. Let's high five. Right? We fail fast. What's the problem, man? When we lose another billion, another quarter, I can do it. I'm going to get promoted, right? Right? No, it's not about failing fast. It's about improving and accelerating your rate of learning. So when you think about AI and what you're deploying in your organizations, you have to have a closed learning loop. That means it starts with you, you make an action, it understands it, it analyzes it, makes a recommendation, it understands what you did, why you did it, gives you a recommendation. You have to have that closed learning loop. It's essential. It's essential in everything you do, right? Very, very important. Okay. So many times we talk about AI, and if we said, what is the primary focus? Many of you would say efficiency, because machines are really good at that, really good at that. But is that the goal? So let me give you an example. So there was this great store, and they decided that, you know what they wanted to do? They wanted to improve your shopping experience. And so they said, we know how to do that. We're going to shorten the amount of time and wait for you to be in line. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to allow you to check out yourself. What a great idea. The AI machine says, hey, look, we can shorten it up. It's awesome. Let's do it. We're going to increase our customer satisfaction. What do you think happened? So they did it. But then you know what they figured out? Wait a minute. The people that were coming to our store, they were more senior in age. And they came to the store not just to buy things, but they came to the store to have human touch, to talk to people. So you know what they had to do? They created a slow checkout line. Literally, there's a slow checkout line so that they can engage, have a conversation, because that's what they wanted. Because they noticed they had a high series of depression after COVID, and people wanted to connect. The purpose of AI is to make you the best you possible. In other words, happiness. We want to make you happy. Don't ever forget that. Do not assume that you want to simply improve efficiency metrics. There's a human, there's a real live person at the other end of this conversation at some point in the loop. And so you need to make sure that you are always focusing on and understanding what we call the happiness paradigm. Okay, privacy. How many of you really value your privacy? I mean, like really value it. Really? Interesting. Okay, keep your hands up. How many of you value your privacy? Put your hands up again. How many value your privacy? How many of you go to supermarkets? Keep your hands up. Okay, how many of you but you told me you really value your privacy, but you put your stuff on that conveyor belt, don't you? And don't you let everybody see what you're buying? Don't you do that? I thought you said you value your privacy. Wait a minute. No matter what you buy, any kind of products, you put it on, everybody sees it, man. Why do you do that? Why do you do it? It's because you feel that in that moment, there's an exchange of value. It's worth it. Privacy is contextually based. It's directly proportional to the value you receive. Here's the trick. In that simple example, you understand the value. When you're talking about AI and deploying solutions, you have to be very, very clear on what that value is. I'm not talking about a 10-page end-user license agreement where you're scrolling through the bottom. Click it if you want to get the data. That's not going to get it there. Because once you violate that trust, man, you're in trouble. This is about making sure that everything you do from an AI perspective has a clear roadmap to express value. Very, very important. Okay, probably the most controversial of things that we're going to talk about today. If I asked all of you, what is your digital identity? Many of you would say Instagram. Some of you would be bold enough to say Facebook. The real cool people would be like TikTok. They whisper it if you're in the US, TikTok, right? But all of those things are static, meaning there's no intelligence behind them. You post a post or you go on, people might send you a message and you respond. But where we are going, where we have arrived to, is those digital identities become digital sapience, if you will, or they become cognitive. Those digital identities become cognitive. That means there's an AI model behind them, understanding your desires, understanding your traits, and it's able to present you with decisions, recommendations, and allow people to interact without talking to you, but it is aligned to you. So the first one, me as a CEO, my team, they got tired of coming in and me ripping them apart for board presentations. The new strategy team, they kept coming in and going, I go, try it again. I can try it again, guys. And they said, Joseph, okay, hold on. And every time they would come in, they would come in and I'd say, well, let's start it at, we have a meeting at 10 a.m. They got it wrong the next day, I moved it to 9 a.m. Pretty soon we started having meetings at 3 o'clock in the morning to help motivate them. And they said, wait a minute, can we create an LLM for you, Joseph, that actually takes your emails, takes the videos that you've done, combines that with our information, and can give us an opportunity to talk with it before we talk with you. To mimic and get your feedback, but it's not really your feedback, but it is your feedback around how this presentation will be perceived by you so we can get better. Sure, try it. Wow, did that work? Amazing. It actually worked, right? They got to having meetings back at normal times. Probably improved them by like 98%. Same thing about a doctor version, medical version, sports version. You get the point. If you are an enterprise, the single biggest challenge that you will have, especially in this world now, is knowledge retention. This just got solved. Look out. This just got solved for you. You're an employee, and I want you to be more productive. So now all of a sudden, I'm going to give that employee an LLM that's going to understand the decisions every employee has made. It's also going to ingest that employee's email. It's also going to ingest every video conference that team is on, so it knows its responses, and it's going to watch how that employee's working. Employee's going to be really happy because, man, I'm getting a lot of stuff done, but that means that digital identity now contains the knowledge of that individual. Knowledge retention. Woo! You with me? That's what's happening. Whether you know it or not, I guarantee you 30 to 40% of your millennials already have this done. They're already doing it. Several sites online help you build it, everything. It's going to get easier and easier and easier and easier. And so if this exists, who you got to sell to now? Who's your customer? Who are you selling to? If Joseph has a bunch of these multimodal me's, who are you selling to? Easy concept to think about. How many of you have HP printers? Any HP printers around here? Anybody own an HP printer? Okay, if you own an HP printer, you can tell that printer to self-order when it needs a cartridge. So that means all the suppliers of all the stuff that goes into the cartridge, they ain't selling to you no more. They're selling to that printing device. That algorithm is making decisions. Well, this means that you're going to have multimodal services, right? Multimodal services means that you're going to have to face that off to understand who your customer is, because your customer now is going to be me, but it's my digital identities, because I'm going to use it to take care of a lot of the things that I don't want to deal with to get that initial selection criteria down. Okay, you with me still? So these are the 5 things we talked about, right? Investing in data assets, employing a cognitive learning loop, understanding the happiness paradigm, embracing contextualization of data, right? It's contextually based, and then probably the most controversial, multimodal, right? Multimodal services. This stuff isn't all easy to do, and it is absolutely contains a lot of risk, right? So I want to be sure I talk to you about some of these risks, right? Okay, so let's talk about a couple of these risks. Disparities in access. You got to really watch this. Disparities in access. What does that mean? Digital divide. In the US, they said, great, we're going to make a judicial system. We're going to put an AI model about it. It's going to help out the judges, going to make recommendations. What was the problem? What happened? It took data around people that were sentenced. It said, unfortunately, African Americans were sentenced twice as long for the same crime as Caucasians. Well, let's just keep doing that. That must be right, so let's replicate it. Instantly. That's the problem. Garbage in, garbage out. You got to make sure that everyone is represented in the data sets. You got to own that. You got to know that. You got to make sure you understand who in your organization is responsible for the ethical use of AI. If you don't answer that question, don't mess with AI. If you got to go to an org chart and you're like, well, it's probably, no. You got to have who is accountable. Who in your organization? You know why I tell you that? Because as I told my team, AI looks good in orange, but I don't look good in orange. You understand? You see what I'm telling you? AI can be responsible, but it can't go to jail. It can't be accountable. You know what I'm saying? So that means you got to know. You have to know in your org chart who you're talking about. Okay, concentration of power and control. Second thing is, if you're in a great running, efficient corporation, who makes the decisions? At the top. Here's the problem. When we start talking about mass customization and we start talking about making personalized decisions, value improves exponentially as you move decision-making closer and closer to the customer. If you got an AI model that's making decisions, it's going to look at who made the decisions, it's talking about you. That's the wrong person to be asking the question to. You got to talk about the people that are close to the customer. So you got to be very, very careful when you talk about decision-making models to ensure that you are having a diverse basis of information. And it's hard because typically the people that make those decisions every day, it isn't captured. So a big issue for you, okay? Digital identity. Who owns it? This is a good one. So that means I create this great modelless employee and then Joseph leaves. He's gone. But that's okay. I still got him. I still get to use his stuff, right? Right? Everything he built was built on the company's computer. Everything he's ever learned was learned in the company. What do you think? Do you own it? Is it yours? Or do you got to pay him something if you want to use it? That's interesting. So I mean, an employee could do something really good for one company, then use that identity for the rest of his life and not have to work anymore? These are the things you got to deal with. These are the issues that come to mind. And then how do you deal with truth? How do you deal with truth? How do you know that's my digital identity? How do you know it? Blockchain, application, NFT. How do you know it? You got to think about, how do you know? How do I know what I'm listening to? How do I know that what I'm getting at is truth? Data integrity, not data security, will be the biggest issue you have. Why do you care about data security? Because you assume your data is correct. If data is not correct, you don't care about securing it because we haven't been no value. So you assume today that your data is correct. Can't do that anymore. You got to worry about data integrity. I'm not talking about it being manipulated from a cyber perspective. I'm talking about you got to make sure that your data is correct. Data integrity will become your primary issue, right? Okay. So these things we talked about today, right? Investing in data assets, employing a cognitive learning loop, understanding the happiness paradigm, embracing the contextualization of privacy, preparing for multimodal productivity, and we talked about the risk that we see on this side, right? The risk on that side. Okay. The singular reality is here, folks. It's not something out in the far distant future. It's here. So if it's here, why are we not embracing it? If it's here, what's the problem? We're the leaders of many corporation enterprises. It's the leaders. We're here. If it's here, what's our issue? Uncertainty. Uncertainty. When I talk to CEOs around the world, my peers around the world, this is probably the highest level of uncertainty that we've had to deal with around a variety of issues. They're uncertain. I know a bit about uncertainty from a personal perspective. And I learned this, and there was a message and a very important message that I got from one of the people that were helping me through 14, 15 months ago. Worked out, no problems, very healthily. I was diagnosed with colon cancer stage 3, completely out of the blue, about 14 months ago. And when you're faced with something like that, that draws uncertainty to the maximum condition and makes it very, very, very personal to you. And when I was going through that, and got through it 100% fine, but got through it, all the chemo treatments and surgery and the chemo treatments, there was a very special person, many heroes, that I got an opportunity to fist bump with when I first came into that chemo room, and I was a bit scared, a bit nervous, right? And she told me something very important that I will leave with you. She said, when you're dealing with uncertainty, you don't worry about what you don't know. But you wake up each and every day and challenge what you believe to be true. That is how you deal with uncertainty. That is what is required of us. Be a change maker. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joseph, for that. Now we're going to start the kind of Q&A session. Some of you already sent questions. You can continue to do that in the Slido tool, so maybe we can get the QR code back up on the screen there. We also have mic runners, so if you want to just raise your hand, you have a question, we can do it that way as well. I'm going to pick up on something you talked about in your presentation. Real time is too late.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of an interesting concept because we talk about the value being real time. So real time is too late. So how can you, as organizations, any advice to people here, how can you really be forward-looking to be able to anticipate and see the future before it happens?
Well, so two things. So one is you have to follow data. Data is your friend. And so that means that you need to build within your organizations a common data architecture tool. So you can think of that in non-technical terms as being, you got a bunch of people speaking a bunch of different languages. You have to be able to interpret and understand what they're saying. So a common data architecture tool allows you to tap into that information. Second thing is what I close my presentation with, which is a philosophy that we have at Autonomous, which is, look, we have to build for a city that doesn't exist. We got to build for a city that we know fundamentally whatever we do is going to be wrong. And so how do you think about that problem? Well, the best way to think about that is to concretely think about what you know today, not worry about predicting the future, and challenge those beliefs as to whether you believe they're true or false. That gives you ability to step by step into the future, but more importantly, it tells you what you need to do today, right now, to prepare for that. So start with an understanding of what it is that in your organization that you believe to be true. As an example, is it really critically important for a retailer's experience for us to give them a fast checkout? Is that really the case? If you're in maintenance and repair, is it really about ensuring that we fix the problem in the shortest amount of time, or is it about not having the problem in the first place? These are the types of basic things that you want to be able to get at and address. So that's how we think about it.
And maybe a related question, you talked about, failing, not about failing fast, it's not about failing, it's about, accelerating the rate of learning.
Yes.
I think those are very interesting comments. So how can you do that? How can you accelerate the rate of learning?
Sometimes old is new. And what I mean by that is 20 years ago, my first manager at Pacific Bell taught me something very, very simple, but I've learned it and been hugely successful in my career is when there is a problem, make sure you understand why. Very simple. When there's a problem, make sure you understand why. In today's world, we're so concerned with executing and fixing it, many of us forget to have the basic, simple, tell me what happened and why did it happen after this problem is done. Because in the middle of it, you're trying to get it done and get that. But you got to go back while it's fresh in your mind, and you got to have a review to understand why this happened. Now, you don't have to have it at you personally, but every level does. And that is a very basic, very, very simple way to be able to understand and make sure you have accelerated learning. And then as you get from a technology perspective, you have to make sure that the systems give you a sense of cause and effect. And what I mean by that is you have to know who did it and what was the result. Now, here's the thing. If you use this as a punishment tool, you can forget it. The inmates will run the asylum. They will figure out a way to game the system. If any of you ever built compensation plan for salespeople, good luck, man. I'm telling you, that doesn't exist. They're going to game the system. So what you got to do is, it's very important that when you build this learning loop, you got to use it for learning. If you use it to punish or you use it as a different tool, it won't be valuable. So you got to truly use it for learning, not for any type of HR action of that sort. If you do, the data that you get won't be valuable.
And have you done this at Autonomous, built systems, processes, tools, incentives to make sure learning is happening and captured?
Let me tell you, man, if our connectivity people were here, they say, yes, we have. Yes, definitely on the connectivity side, also on the security side as well. For cybersecurity is really critical. Cybersecurity is really important to be able to see that, but yes.
Another question that came from your presentation, multimodal services.
Yeah.
It kind of anticipates the wider discussion that we're having this week in many of the sessions around the impact, the implication of AI on workforce. Do you have an opinion on that? Is it a substitution? Is it augmentation? Is it something both? What do you think the impact is going to be of AI on workforce?
Yeah, hot topic, right? So Short answer is it's going to be disruptive in the short term. I think in the long term, we're going to create a lot of value. And what do I mean by that? If you think about travel agents, we said, oh my God, when this internet comes out, there'll be no more travel agents. But all these travel agents, no more travel agents, you're gonna lose all these jobs. What happened? Travelocity. The job changed. What you're gonna see is the jobs and the roles continue to evolve and change. You are gonna have some short-term disruption, but you're gonna see that. You're gonna see it in the environment. You know, if I showed you quotes of what they said about when the calculator was created, what do you think people said? Kids will be ruined. They'll forget how to do math. It's going to be horrible. Here's the interesting thing. When people talk about jobs or the impact of ChatGPT, they tend to focus on the output. They tend to focus on what ChatGPT is actually the answer that it's giving or what it's producing. That's not the human part. The value is in the question. You understand what these kids are doing? You are moved into a world where all the answers are known. So therefore, value is in understanding what question to ask. That is where the humanity is. That is where the creativity is. If you can think it, you can create it. 80% of your business right now is built on execution. That's going to change. Execution is going to become the easy part. What to execute? That is going to be. So all those kids that you made fun of, you know, all those parents whose kids told them they want to major in sociology, philosophy, and everybody said, what are you getting PhDs in that stuff for? You'll never make any money. They're about to have the last laugh. It's the rise of the humanities, those people that are able to think and articulate. You got to learn to write cursive. You got to learn to code. Uh-oh. That's the world that you're moving into, right? That's the world you're moving into. Last thing I'll say, I can't wait till my nephew, he's 8 years old, and I can't wait till he starts driving when he's 16. I told my wife, Laura, I said, you know the conversation he's going to have? He's going to say, can you imagine these dumb people? Can you imagine having to sit in a car and stay focused on the road for 3 hours at a time? What was wrong with these people? Who would do something like that? That's the world, right? That's what you're going to see.
So I think you would do something like that because you're a big car guy. I know this about you.
Well, it'd be like riding horses, right?
It's a pastime.
Exactly. It'd be a pastime. You want to go drive a car? Yeah, safely. Not on the road, of course not. But let's go to a stable. We can drive the car. That's what it's going to be like, right?
So there's quite a few questions coming up here.
Okay.
We're not going to get to them all, but there's quite a few that are people who are curious about your day job. Autonomous. What is autonomous? What are you doing? What is NEOM? What is the link between autonomous and NEOM? Maybe you could explain a little bit about that.
So Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince, MBS had an incredible vision. He said, I want to build a place where people and technology can live in harmony together, where we can actually not just maintain the status quo, but we can actually replenish the planet. And he began to talk about this, and he called this place NEOM. And he announced to the world that this is the location in the world that he was going to build. And NEOM has 5 regions. Think of those as cities. The one that gets the most attention is called the Line. It's a city that's built in a line, but it's not just built in a line. It's 172 kilometers long. It's the longest single connective building that'll be built in the world. It's 500 meters tall. Tall entire State Building, taller than the Eiffel Tower in Paris. 500 meters and 300 meters wide. So you can imagine a building like this and you put it on its side, okay? And that will house a tremendous amount of people, up to, I think, 200,000 by 2030, and then up to a population of, I think, as many as 7 million, I think is the ultimate goal. And you say, why would you build a city in a line? Well, if a city is your hand, this is the amount of space it occupies, if you turn your hand vertical, all of a sudden, you got 95% of this space that's now been made available. And you can replenish that, not just keep it status quo. You can bring back natural water reserves. You can bring back animals. You can bring back those things. So that is NEOM. Autonomous is a 100% owned subsidiary of NEOM. And our goal is to make NEOM a cognitive city. It's to provide all the technology required from a connectivity, from a compute capacity, from a data perspective, applications and training and tools, to provide all of that to NEOM. And at the same time, take that technology and export it to the world, because the goal behind NEOM is it's located in Saudi, but it's for the world. And so we are the full commercial P&L. So yes, we have a P&L. Our biggest NEOM is 50% of our customer base, and the other 50% is outside of NEOM. So that's what Autonomous is. We provide services to NEOM, and that's what NEOM is.
So the NEOM project, in a way, it's the mother of all greenfield projects. I mean, you don't have to worry about legacy.
You do not. It's the largest, public numbers, about $500 billion US dollars to build the project. So it's the largest project in the world. It's going to use somewhere in upwards, I think, of 50 to 60% of the world's steel supply. So it's an incredible project. I would say it's the modern day version of the pyramids. I mean, it's of that magnitude. We'll have about 300,000 construction workers building NEOM. So that just gives you a size. 300,000 construction workers constructing and building NEOM. There's about 10,000 employees living in NEOM today. I'm one of them, and super excited about the project.
And that gives you the flexibility, I guess. You don't have to worry about legacy. So what are some of the cool things that you're able to do in NEOM, through Autonomous, that we haven't seen before?
So one of the things I think is super cool is we call NEOS, and Mike Z is the architect behind this, a brilliant architect. So the reason I tell you, a common data architecture is really hard. It's never been done before. People say they have, but they don't. It's really, really, really hard to build. And most people try to put it all together in one massive data system. It's really difficult. And so what Mike Z designed was what we call a federated data model. And what that means is that data can sit where it is, but we have control over how it's used, and more importantly, a common data architecture. So if we type in we need something, it can go and get that data wherever it is. Now, the reason that's important is because NEOS doesn't just treat information as a simple data element, but it also treats other systems as data elements. So what do you mean by that? That means that if we chose a particular data platform, Palantir or C3 AI or wherever, we could then swap that out if another one becomes available to it. So it gives you ultimate flexibility. And so what that allows you to do is, if you came to NEOM, and let's say you are a Westerner and you go and you want to take a picture of your family, you take a picture, it's great, but you don't realize that there happens to be a non-Westerner who would be offended if their picture was taken because of their garb or clothes or whatever the case is, right? They would be offended. Well, you have right over that picture, but you don't have right over their likeness. So when you deploy NEOS throughout NEOM, it would have the ability, using the app, when you took that picture, to instantaneously check and see, do you have the right for that person's likeness? If you don't, it would dissolve that person's image from the photo before you actually stored it into and became part of your own memory. So that's something that you would be able to do as an example. And then we talked about the luggage example, which is another great thing that we'll be creating, practical experiences. You're also talking about being able to have experiences, if you like to golf, as an example. If you're a golfer, you love to go to a golf course, but maybe your son or daughter isn't of the age where they can keep up just yet. But you know what? You could be on the golf course in NEOM. Your son or daughter is on the golf course, but they're digitally on it. They're playing the game. And as they hit the ball, they see you at the same distance. You hit the ball, and you have your glasses and you can see them. So you have a experience in the digital and the physical world being melded together to allow you to still interact and have sports as a family without being physically located in the same location.
And that links something you said earlier about trust and benefits.
Yeah.
Because I guess for some people here, the idea of this or the idea of your luggage, showing up is a privacy nightmare, right? That people will be like, geez, I'm not sure if I really want all my information to be known, all of my movements to be known. So there's a benefit on the other side. If benefit's high enough, people will trust. Is that you want to say something a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so one is don't feel bad. NEOM isn't for everybody. It be really clear. NEOM is a place that's designed to leverage your information to provide you with increased time to spend with your family, to remove friction out of your life. And that's part of the equation. It requires you to play that game. The way I view it is, as long as you understand, our role is to be very, very clear on what value we're going to offer you. And I think that's been the problem. You're collecting data, but people don't know what you're using it for. Our job is to make sure, from a technology perspective, that you are very much aware of, not some end-user license agreement. Here's what we're doing in plain English. This is how we're doing it, so that you can make the proper decisions. And if we do that, then I think that you, as in controlling your destiny, will be able to make those decisions. I will tell you this though: the generations that are coming up, they already decided this. Your life is going to be miserable if you don't participate, because you know what? They're still going to send you data. It's just going to be wrong. They're not going to not advertise to you. The junk mail that you get, and those people that get all the junk mail, you're still going to get the junk mail. You're still going to get advertised that. They're not going to stop. But if they understand you, then you'll get a better experience. That being said, you have to hold people accountable from a data and security standpoint. And when a violation does occur, people are going to have the switching costs. They're going to be able to move to who they want to go to or who they feel comfortable with. So my view is we got to be clear. One, you own the data. There's no question about that. Two, we got to present you with value to make sure you understand how that's going to be used. And if we do that, then we fundamentally believe that you will make the right decision, because it's up to you.
The tech sector generally is getting a lot of heat these days about the impact on the environment, sustainability.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about that? What are you doing at Autonomous to make sure that the impact of what you're doing is not negative toward the environment or beneficial?
Absolutely. That's a core premise for us. And so if we think about AI, the current model of AI, we don't feel is scalable. The compute capacity that's being required to drive it, we don't see that as being something that is scalable from an environmental standpoint in the long run. And so we're investing very heavily in different models that provide a much, much, much better tokenization rate or efficiency rate associated with AI than the current architecture does. I think NVIDIA is an incredible company and done some incredible things. And I'm confident that they will figure out a model that is scalable. The current model isn't. And I think it's important for folks to recognize that, because we need to invest, and we are investing in models that are fully scalable. We also have a version of blockchain, obviously, that is much more efficient. And for us, it is all about, we have every meeting that we have, there's always two chairs that are left unopened. There's a chair for the customer and there's a chair for the environment. And we make sure that both of those chairs have a voice, because it's really, really important. That's being ingrained in your culture. So that's how we handle that.
There's a few questions here about you.
Sure.
Actually, any advice that you have around leadership, that you've picked up over the years and you apply at Autonomous and other places, advice on being a good leader?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing I think that I tell my team all the time is all things can be important, but they are not equal. Too many leaders today will tell you customers, employees, financials, you gotta do it all. Really? They're all equal. Doesn't mean they're not important. Does not mean they're not important. But you have to provide, especially today, very clear direction on what is the most important. That's your role. You got to make that call. For us, it's very simple. We take care of our customers. Take care of our employees, sorry. Take care of our employees. They take care of our customers, and our customers take care of our financials. That's the order. That's how we view it. And so I think that's critically important as we go through. And the other thing I would tell you as a leader, which I think is really, really important now, is it's the time for you to be vulnerable. It's the time for you to be vulnerable as a leader. Meaning, your people need to understand that it's okay to make a mistake, because you're going to make a lot of them right now. The level of uncertainty is too high. And so I do a soundbite every week with my team. So every week on my team, it's not professional. We don't go into a marketing room. I get in front of my Mac and I record a 2-minute message to my team every week. Very transparent. And I typically talk to them about a mistake that I have made. Something that I think I could have done better. And when I do that, it lets everybody else know in the organization, well, if Joseph said he made a mistake, then maybe it's okay for me to make a mistake. And before you know it, you got people who are being very open and transparent and solving the problems today, because right now is the greatest level of uncertainty that you're going to have. I mean, the uncertainty is so high right now as a leader. So I think it's critically important. And then the last thing I would tell you is, man, diversity is not enough. Now look at this room, diversity is not enough. Diversity is the potential to create value. Inclusion is the realization of value by driving full participation. That means I can have a diverse organization, but if the 2 Americans are the only ones that are talking, there's no value being created. So that means you as leaders have got to really push towards inclusion, and you have the technology to help you do that. If you're in a conference call, it can tell you only 1 or 2 people are talking. If they're uncomfortable, use the Q&A session. Create a polling feature, but you got to pull it out, because right now you need every bit of value you can in your organization, every bit of thought process you have to make it work.
And any tips on how to build an inclusive organization?
Yeah, I tell you, the first thing is you got to make sure you hire inclusive leaders. It's really simple, man. If you think about your HR process, and if all you're talking about and asking people is are their technical skills to do the job, and you don't have a conversation around their level of inclusivity, who have you promoted? How do you make decisions? How do you involve the right people? Who do you involve in these decisions? It starts with having an inclusive leadership team. You have to have that. Second thing I think is very important is transparency. So typically, non-inclusive organizations are such because they're worried about making a mistake, worried about being transparent, worried about how do I communicate. And so you need to make sure that you're increasing the level of transparency in your organization. And that means ensuring that your people and you are having proper one-on-ones, old-fashioned one-on-ones, right? Sometimes old is new, right? Measuring that. I'm surprised I ask leaders, I go, I love the Jurassic Park example. Remember Jurassic Park when the guy was talking about chaos theory? He goes, well, how do you know all the dinosaurs are female? Unless you go and look. How do you actually know? I asked leaders all the time. I said, well, do your people have one-on-ones? They go, yeah, of course. I go, well, how do you know? Well, how do you know? You better figure out. You can do a questionnaire, that's an easy one. But there's also technology out there that allows you to be able to look at communications patterns without invading privacy, to be able to understand if your people are talking to one another. Are they actually having those things? But you better know, you got to find out, because now is the time.
There's a question here about any advice you have on the management of multidisciplinary teams. I guess you have many of those, and people here probably have those as well.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yes. The thing I would tell you when you're managing multidisciplinary teams is make sure you have what I call a morning report. That's a report that every day you wake up in the morning, what are the things that are doing well in your organization, and what are the things you need to focus in on? It tells you you can't manage multidisciplinary organizations blindly. So, and you also can't assume that they all have the same priority. It does not mean that they're not important, but once again, it gets down to understanding what that priority is. So I like to call it a morning report. So you get with your IT team and understand how do you figure out and build that morning report. Amazon, Jeff Bezos used to call it, he told me he spent I think 6 months or 7 months out of the year on methods. And what he meant by that is how does he know that his organization is doing what it's supposed to be doing? How does he measure his organization? It's so critically important that when you're managing multidisciplinary teams, you have this sense of what is your actual morning report, so you can understand exactly what those priorities are. The other thing is I'm, again, old school show me style of management. When you're managing multidisciplinary teams, you can go around and you can meet the team and someone tells you, this is typically what they do is they say, yeah, this is what I do. And we say, oh, that's great. And then you go to the next person. And they try 2 words. Oh, really? Show me. Show me. Oh, well, 2 things. 1, you care. Hopefully you'll learn something. And 2, they get a genuine sense that, hey, what I'm doing matters to the company, right? Matters to the organization, and hopefully they actually show it to you. Hopefully they do what they say they're going to do. But show me is a very powerful word, I think, as leaders.
You've had experience recently that I wouldn't wish on anybody here. You had a cancer diagnosis, a serious one. Thankfully,
all good.
You're all good, and you came out of it, and you're all good. Has your worldview changed since that? Has it shifted in any way your thoughts or mindset around work, life, or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, one is tomorrow's not promised. So I will tell you, we talk about work-life balance. Forget work-life balance. It's life. You know, balance. It's life, man. And make sure that you're spending the time with your loved ones and make sure you're present. You know, make sure you're really, really present when I say that, because tomorrow isn't promised. The other thing is it changed my definition of heroes. You know, I think we all look up to famous people and because, you know, that they're famous and they're athletes or whatever, and then we turn that athlete, or we look for that athlete to do something that we stretch them and we make them a hero because they're famous. And what I learned is, man, you want to see heroes, man, you need to walk into any hospital and go to any cancer ward, and I'm telling you, man, they're heroes every day. They are, I mean, unbelievable, the strength these people have. I mean, for me personally, that was I remember telling my wife, I mean, I was a little scared, but man, this lady's like 70 years old, man. She's 70 years old telling me, I got this. Well, I got this, man. I got, okay, you know, all right. And it's just, there are so many heroes each and every day. And I think we just got to look a little bit harder, look a little bit closer, because they need your encouragement. You know, they need it each and every day. So I learned a lot. Hopefully you don't ever have to go through anything like that again. But I tell you, forget work-life balance, man. Throw that balance. Take that. It's just life. It's just life. And you really understand that when you go through something like that.
Joseph Bradley, thank you so much for your generous sponsorship of our new research center. We're very excited about that, you and your team who are also here today. But also thank you for sharing so honestly and with a forthright way your principles, your thoughts, your reflections on life and leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.